You know what's crazy? Your exact genetic combination has never existed in the entire history of the universe, and it will never exist again. That alone shows how intentionally each of us were made. You have a purpose. You're literally a one of a kind phenomenon. And yet, most of us live our lives like we're just a copy of everyone else. So I was listening to this conversation between Andrew Huberman and Robert Greene on the Huberman Lab podcast. And something Greene said hit me like a truck. So he talked about how we humans are born without any instruction manuals, right? Unlike animals that just follow their own instincts. We wake up every day with literally thousands of different paths we could take. I mean, there is no actual guide for how to live your life. Your parents, teachers, mentors, they play their role, but in reality, there is no clear direction. And it's actually terrifying if you think about it. But the interesting part is that when we were all kids, we had these little voices in our heads that told us what we loved and what we did not like. It told us what felt right and what felt wrong. Ring called them impulse voices, and you probably remember having one too. Maybe as a kid, you were obsessed with taking apart electronics or fixing stuff or, organizing your friend's game. Or some of us could spend hours drawing and all of that. But the problem is, somewhere along the line, we stopped hearing these voices. First, it was our teachers telling us, you're not good at this, you need to focus on that. And then our parents pushing us towards practical careers. And then our peers defining what's cool and what's not. And by the time we are adults, we can't even hear our own voices anymore. And that's how you end up in a job you hate, wondering why you feel so empty, even when you're working hard. You see, your brain learns 2 to 3 times faster when you're doing something you are genuinely connected to. Think about the last time you were so absorbed in something that 3 hours felt like 10 minutes. That's what Green calls flow. And it's not just a nice feeling, you know, it's your brain telling you, this is it. This is what you are designed for. Now, I know you're thinking, yeah, that's great, but I'm 25 or 30 or 40. I've already made choices. How do I figure this out? Now, here's the truth. The older you get, the harder it becomes. But it's not totally impossible. You just have to become like an archaeologist of your own life. You need to dig deep and, find those childhood clues. What did you love before anyone told you what you should love? I started doing this myself and it was wild. I remember as a kid or when I was younger, I could rearrange or reorganize the whole house just for fun. I remember how I would spend hours researching random topics that interested me on my mom's Nokia C5 back then. Those weren't hobbies, those were signals. But here's where most people get stuck. They confuse real purpose with things that only, feel meaningful for a moment. As humans, we all have this deep need to feel connected to something bigger than ourselves. So we chase things that give us temporary rush of importance or belonging. Things like social media outrage and validation, jumping on trends or movement just to feel included. Some people resort to, drugs and alcohol, drama, distractions, or even copying other people's dreams. But it's just like junk food for your soul. You need more and more and more, and it never actually satisfies you. But you see, real purpose, once you feel it, it lasts. It's not this external high, it comes from within. Something else I learned from this conversation is that, Green talked about putting yourself on a death ground. It sounds dramatic, it does. But when you think about it, When do you perform best? Is it when you have all the time in the world or when there's actually urgency? Most of us live like we have forever to figure things out. But the reality is you don't. Of course, not in a morbid way, but in a motivating way. That pressure, that urgency, it actually releases chemicals in your brain that give you access to energy that you didn't even know you had. You know, it releases these chemicals that gives you energy as well as focus. So I started thinking about my life this way, and everything changed for me. Instead of someday I'll figure it out, it became, what am I going to do today to get me closer to who I'm supposed to be? Now, you need to understand that you can't do this alone. And I don't mean you need like a life coach or some expensive program or courses, like, those things we have online. But what I mean is, you need to find people who embody the qualities you want to develop. Not perfect people. I mean, nobody's perfect. But, people who have something you want to learn. You can't just follow them on social media and think that counts. You need to actually engage, ask questions, offer value, build real relationships. And the truth is, it's scary. It's really, really scary because it requires putting yourself out there. But that's the exact reason why most people don't do it. And the crazy part is, when you start aligning with your actual purpose, people start noticing. Opportunities start showing up. It's not magic. It's just, it's just that you're finally working with your natural strength instead of against them. But, you know, let me be real with you for a second. This isn't some overnight transformation. I mean, there are going to be boring parts. There are going to be some moments where you question everything. That's normal. But the difference is, when you're connected to something real, you can pursue, you can push through, you can push through those moments because you know there's something deeper driving you, you know. And the wild part is that we live in this age where we have many choices than ever, but somehow we are more lost than ever. It's very ironical, you know. We're constantly consuming other people's content, other people's ideas, other people's definition of success, but we've forgotten how to listen to that voice inside of us that actually knows what we need. So here's what I want to challenge you to do. Turn off those noise for a minute, not forever, of course, just for today, and ask yourself, if nobody was watching, if nobody was judging, if money wasn't a factor, what would you be drawn to? I mean, don't overthink it. Don't make it perfect. Just notice what comes up. You already have everything you need. Trust me. You already have everything you need to figure this out. It's about reconnecting with the person you were before the world told you who you should be. And once you start that process, once you begin treating your uniqueness as the gift it is, instead of trying to fit into someone else's mold, everything starts to shift. Your energy changes, your relationships change, your work changes, not because you're forcing anything, but because you're finally moving in the direction you were designed to go. So stop treating your life like a rough draft. Stop waiting for permission. Stop thinking you have forever to figure this out. You're literally a once in the history of the universe phenomenon. Like, you only happen once. Start acting like it. And don't just hear that, feel it for a second. Think about how crazy it is that nobody exactly like you has ever existed before, and nobody exactly like you is coming after. That alone should tell you you're not here by accident. But being rare doesn't automatically mean you would live a meaningful life. That's the truth. The part is on you. You have to take yourself seriously. You have to stop waiting until you feel ready or confident or until you have this clarity, because those things don't show up before you start. They show up after you move. And if you feel lost right now, that doesn't mean you don't have a purpose. It just means you haven't tried enough things to find what clicks. You've not connected to that childhood voice that you used to hear. Purpose isn't something you magically discover, it's something you grow into by trying, messing up, learning, and paying attention to what actually lights you up. Instead of stressing over what's my purpose, maybe you should ask yourself things like, what am I curious about? What do people always ask me for help with? What annoys me enough that I want to change it? What did I used to obsess over as a kid? You don't need a full plan. You don't need everyone's approval. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take the next small step that feels real to you. And when this video ends, don't just go back to scrolling like nothing happened. Do one tiny little thing that reminds you you're not, you know, just here by accident. Text someone, you know, make a list of things you have to do. Look something up, sit quietly and think. Anything that proves to you that you are awake. You're not a coincidence. You are not random. And the world doesn't need a watered down version of you. That's all for this video. But I'm not done talking about this. If any of this hits you or resonated with you, I think you should stick around. I've got way more coming on how to actually figure things out and build a life that, feels like yours. So thank you for hanging with me, and seriously, don't just disappear back into the background after this. Your purpose isn't somewhere far away. It's already in you. Now it's just about acting like it. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye.